Okay. All right, everyone all settled in. Nobody forgot their drinks.
Don't know what you're talking
I
about.
don't got anything.
Oh, bullshit. Anyways, good evening, everyone. Welcome back to another evening night with us at Hot or Trash Podcast. I'm your host, Brian, and
Yes,
God.
I'm your co-host Victor.
God,
And
I
Michael.
yeah. As you may see, we lost another guest in replacement. With our other guest. Oh my God, I am not saying coherent words today.
I
Darn
It's
understood
a
it.
nice day. Today's a nice day to have a stroke. It seems.
God.
I get it. We're all tired. And I don't know what's been going on. I think it's the summer. It's been sapping our energy.
I definitely blame the whole summer at this point. Oh my God,
I mean,
It's
it's
the
so
heat,
hot.
bro. It's the heat. It's all that summer. It's all the summer cold.
Why, huh?
Whenever you're on average 105 degrees every day,
Yeah,
takes it
Oh,
out
yeah.
of you.
yeah. Recipes to anyone living in Arizona right now. God damn. Anyways, yeah, this podcast we're gonna be continuing off of from our other podcast that we did previously, which we talk about cars a bit extensively, albeit. Like if anything, too, was there anything more that we want to add on top of what we were talking about, Victor? Or if anything, Michael, you caught up with what we talked about, right?
A bit, yeah. I mean, I listened to the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
You're
And
asking me to remember everything. But
yeah, because I don't.
we
That's all right.
we'll continue on and we'll jump in when we remember.
Gotcha. So what was the thing that we talked
Let's
about last?
recap. Let's recap because we mostly talked about EVs. I don't think we talked that extensively about. I don't even remember what we talked about EVs, honestly. Like we talked about big trucks and SUVs and stuff like that.
When it came to EVs, you guys were talking about dealerships and
Yeah, we were mostly talking about the dealerships like model versus like what Tesla did. And I think that was like really extensive on that part. Because man,
yeah,
truly.
I've
Maybe
never...
we can talk about other things about EVs.
Yeah. Such as the fact, dude.
Michael, my bad. I interrupted Michael. Hold on.
Yeah.
No. I was just gonna say that I've never had to go to the dealership before, but it sounds miserable.
It is
extremely.
Like, if anything, too, one of their sales strategy that, from what I've been told to, and by salespeople, that they will force like customers to stay in the lobby for way longer than they should, just to demoralize them, so that they could take a better deal just to get out of there.
Sounds like the practices.
But that sounds bizarre. Why would they force you to stay there to get a better deal when people can just, most of the time just straight up leave?
Like I said, this is one of the deals that some dealerships do practice. I don't know if this is like
That's very odd. If that was me, I'm just like, yeah, dude, I'm busy. I gotta go, and then call it a day.
Yeah.
I know my brother did that. Interesting. I know my brother did something similar to that. The guy was keeping him in there forever.
Yeah.
Because he couldn't get the price he wanted, and then my brother just left. And then like literally the sales guy was running out. And was like, yeah, you know what? We can work something out.
Yeah. See, they'll try to convince you that you need to buy it at their price, but really you have all the power. You just have to play their game.
Yeah.
It makes no sense
from the sounds of it.
Yeah. Which, if anything, this just wastes everybody's time. They're pretty much TLDR. Dealership sucks. It wastes everybody's time, like as a customer base. And even to the manufacturer, they're practically getting shafted over because they're losing, in this case, potential customers through like the dealerships. At least in my opinion, they are.
They are. I mean, manufacturers are losing out because, a lot of let's take the EV prices currently, for example. Well, actually, a lot of EV prices are being raised, but nobody's buying them from dealers.
Yeah.
And so now manufacturers are now stuck with a lot of inventory that nobody wants to buy.
They're being raised?
Yeah.
They are, from other EV prices from other companies are being raised.
Okay. I thought you were talking about like specifically like Tesla or something.
No.
Because I've been noticing
prices right now.
Yeah, no, they're cheap. I mean, they're cheaper than I remember, but not necessarily cheap.
But I digress on that. That was pretty much what we discussed about primarily, and it was set awful. But let's talk about the other things that I've heard a lot of people that like talk against EVs. Where here's the other things that what I've heard everyone else is saying: EVs are still, in this case, not really like eco-friendly because of like how much materials it goes into it. Which, if anything, if you know a lot about like how or like the chain or supply chain works too, know the
I know that everyone likes to quote the lithium, the cost, the like the environmental hazards of mining lithium and the waste of lithium, like when like processing it.
Yeah, but let's be honest, manufacturing anything causes like it causes pollution and stuff. So
yeah,
I mean, you shouldn't really compare the manufacturing to the pollution that a car gives out throughout his entire life cycle. Like a gas car pollutes his entire life cycle, his entire lifetime. Then an EV, once it's finished manufacturing, it doesn't pollute anymore, technically.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I say technically because of the electricity that it takes. But nowadays there's a lot of renewable energy too. So essentially after it finished manufacturing, you may not be even polluting at all anymore.
Yeah,
I mean, there's definitely like pros and cons to doing certain things, and I do think EVs are going to be the way forward. How damaging mining lithium really is, couldn't tell you. Is it overall less or more harmful than gas, like a gas car over its entire lifetime? I couldn't tell you. I don't think most people know. I think people just start quoting things, but it's like,
Most definitely, people definitely just start quoting other people or just quoting any single source they can get that they can use as an argument against going for an EV. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. Here's at least the frame of reference I was going off of too. Even if it weren't for the fact too that everybody was purchasing EV, that would have like increased the amount of lithium mines that needed to be made. It still would have gone through that trajectory to begin with. Like,
sorry.
Like, here's the thing too, because a lot of people are trying to say too that a lot of the craze for like EV has increased the amount of lithium mines opening up too. The problem with that argument as well is that, albeit yes, it is still true, I still fall under a mindset too that this is something that it would have gone through this road no matter what anyways, even if it wasn't for EVs. Just because we look at the way how technology is advancing. And the fact too, we're gonna need like battery stations now for all the renewables, since renewable energies, even though they're really great at producing the energy, they kind of suck in maintaining it because they don't follow the energy by demand model at all.
Well, they can maintain it. They just have nowhere to store that excess energy. It just keeps going. It doesn't stop.
Which I guess if you really think about it too, the future would be like, oh shit, batteries everywhere. Everyone is technically driving EVs. They also can serve as like batteries to hold the grid network and whatnot. I think again, a lot of people do have the correct argument, such that we need to upgrade our infrastructure to at least support the demand that it would be if everybody else just goes fully electric, right? Just because imagine how much strain that's going to cause. But
unfortunately, no one will do anything until it comes to that point where you start to see the strain. So we just have to wait until.
But Victor has a very good recommended.
Yes, I wholeheartedly believe that every house should have solar panels that can support the electricity for their house and also for their car, so that reduces the strain on the grid.
Yeah, so it's like,
of course, that would potentially get rid of like central power plants or your electricity company even.
Yeah.
So there's that.
And I'll ask.
But I think one more thing. I think we can repurpose these electricity companies to be electricity storage company instead, since obviously if everybody gonna have solar panels, they may not use all of it because the house is not going to use all the electricity at any given point. It may, but most of the time may not. So that can go back into the grid, into the batteries from these electricity companies, and then they can distribute it out as needed.
Sorry, I didn't know when
Just
you.
I'm done. I'm done
coming
now.
to a stop.
You have the talking stick now.
Sometimes when it's like in the conversation, I can't tell if someone is stopping. So I'll just
No, I mean this is all natural. No, this is just as natural as it's gonna get.
But I know you and I've had this conversation several times, and I'll say it now out in the open too. It's expensive to do, and you would want, and I would always ask the question, so who's going to pay for it? Because the average person won't. And you said that the government will.
Yes, government subsidies. Yes, because gas companies get subsidies, which is why it's cheap. Gas cars also get subsidized by the government, which is why it's cheap.
So why do you think Teslas are cheap now?
When do you think that would be something they would even consider?
So technically, they are doing that. You get a tax credit based on your. So it's just you get a 30%. I think this year is 30%. Every year goes down. But I think this year is 30% tax credit for the solar panel system that you buy.
Yeah, pretty much.
So,
and
but that is a tax credit. That means you have to owe enough taxes to actually be able to get all that money back. That 30% back. It is very whack. I don't worry too much about it. I think the government should just purely subsidize it when you reduce the prices overall.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's how I see it.
What is the average cost of like a solar set? I know it varies, but like if you're talking about like a solar panel set plus the battery bank to go with it.
Well,
unfortunately,
battery bank.
And where would they store the battery bank?
The battery, whatever. I mean, you don't have to get a battery bank. That's all. That's purely optional.
Yeah,
but
I would get it though.
Through my own research, through Tesla, because they're the only ones that are very open. They're very transparent about the price. Every other solar company requires you to like call them and come over to your house and all this estimates and all that stuff. But Tesla, a system that powers my 1,800 square foot home. I think according to my electricity company, I use close to 40 kilowatt hours a day, which is, I think, average, about average or below, average for this size of house.
Yeah.
So this system would cost, I believe, 12 to 15,000 just for the solar panels, and then another about 7 to 10,000 for a single battery, which would only last overnight. It wouldn't power the house overnight.
Yeah. So really, the cost too, I'll say, at least the way how I'm looking at it on my screen right now, I just looked it up briefly. For an average system size of, let's say, 10 kilowatt hours, it will be around 27 grand to 20 grand. Depending on like
7 to 20, huh? I like it.
Yeah. So obviously, installation fee is always going to be what's going to cost the most too, just because you're going to take like a high voltage amount of power coming from the solar panels, and then you're going to have to figure out a system to like convert all that to usable power for your house.
I don't know. I think we could forego that, and I'll just build the solar panels, guys, because I've built one in electric slab. It's fine. I got it. I'll handle this.
Tell me what kind of watershed we're getting per, like, I'll give you like a dimension. Give me a 5-foot square solar panel.
Yeah. Just tell me your current power usage, and I'll buy as many little tiny solar panels as possible to fit the need.
But obviously right now with the current rate how subsidies are going, I'm pretty sure that we're gonna see like a drastic decrease in prices. We've already seen that already, right? From where it was back in like 2010 to now.
Oh yeah,
they say,
of course, the price will always go down. I mean, we're always continuously improving EV, solar panel systems, and all that good stuff, batteries.
Yeah. And really, this just adds into like your theory too. Like at this point, it's pretty much a better for your investment to actually pay the initial installation cost to just try to get yourself solar panels. Yes, some people are going to complain that it's going to probably take like you 10 or 20 years to get your money back, but the point being is the fact that you're saving less. You're already saving more on something that's already free. I'm sorry, my stroke is going out of control tonight. I don't know.
That's all right. But everybody always thinks about in terms of how long you're going to get your money back, and it's understandable. I get it. I get it. Like, yeah, everybody wants to know that whatever they buy, especially these type of big purchases, is going to be worth it in the end. I get it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I mean, the freedom of not relying on the grid I think that's valuable enough for me.
Yeah, like
getting energy from the sun and just having that just provide all of your electricity needs, power your car, power your computer, power your AC, power everything. And then whenever everybody and the rest of the neighborhood gets blackout, you're the only one with power still on, bro. Isn't that a great feeling?
Yeah, like pretty much. I think again, a lot of people. Yes, I agree with you with like people being very panicky about like, oh man, this is such a big investment. So is buying a house.
Yeah,
and everything
else. You don't ever get your money back. You don't ever get your money back when you buy a house. That's the wild thing.
Yeah.
Hey,
if you're buying it to live in, if you buy it to live in, then you never get your money back. But then nobody talks about that,
You get your money back. What you do is you just replace a few doors and then upcharge it like 30 grand.
That's if you sell it, but if you don't sell it and you still live in it, then you're not getting your money back.
Yeah, like it is again like a different mindset that needs to happen too, such as in this case people that's also drivers. We'll get into that at some point. This is right now we're kind of branching kind of away from automobiles and now it's like slightly home ownership, but again this will build into like towards like what we want to talk about in the end. All right,
I think it's part of the grander conversation.
Yeah,
it's in the grander of the whole renewable energy movement.
Yeah, such as we push on words for that. Yeah, like in general too, I get that in most cases people want to try to like get back on money too, or if anything, it's like them like seeing that money go away too scares them. But I'm like, look, at the same
time,
that's a weird
argument because they're willing to buy cars and stuff, and cars don't make your money back. You lose money, and that's something you see like up front. You see that depreciation happens over the years, and that's money you're never gonna get back, no matter how you see it. Houses they go up in price, but you don't get that money until you sell it. So that's the thing, that you buy all of these things that people buy, like TVs and like clothing and all that stuff. That's all just money down the drain. That's not a proper way to see things in my eyes.
Well, yeah, I was gonna say according to that kind of logic, it would be.
Yeah, but again, this is more or less like you're not paying in for the fact that you're just trying to save money. You're paying for the fact that you're gonna be self-sustaining. That is a mindset that a lot of people are not fully grasping yet. At least they know the definitions, but they don't know the practice themselves.
If that makes sense. That's why I'm gonna live off the grid, and I'm gonna get an entire house, like a shack full of battery banks attached to a lot of solar panels out in my fields.
Like that's practically anything.
Energy company.
Look, that's practically anybody that lives in either the Appalachians or the Rocky Mountain like foothill regions.
Anybody that lives in the middle of nowhere,
yeah, it's like they're already learning how to live sustainably. It's just like people that are within the suburbans and urban areas that's like having a harder time to really grasp the idea of sustainability.
Okay, wait, real quick. I don't know if you answered the question, but how large are the battery banks themselves?
It depends on who you buy from. Let me see Tesla's. Let me see Tesla's battery bank, because they're the only ones that are like open to describing like how big these things are.
There was another company, but I forgot the name.
I would definitely be the person who would buy like 2 or 3 battery banks, just because like then if the power really goes out, I'll be fine. I'll last. I can just pretend nothing's happening.
Yeah, my next house, I want to do that. I want to buy like 4 battery banks so I can last like a few weeks without solar power.
Well, I don't know if it would, with the way, I don't know how much it truly holds. I don't know if I could last a week, but I definitely like a few days of like doing just normal things without rationing it.
Okay, so according to Tesla, one of their battery banks holds up to 13.5 kilowatt hours. So 13.5 kilowatt hours. So they did say that it will only last overnight, which is true because everyone's asleep and no energy is being used. So this would last about a third of my day, Yeah, a third of the day if I just use it. If I just do it. If I just use it normally.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that means you, by having like at least 3 or 4, you would be able to go a whole day without noticing that something was happening.
Yeah, technically. I mean, caveat is you don't use the same amount of power every day. This is
Correct.
I'm just calculating based on like 40 kilowatt hours a day, which is what I've seen on my electric bill.
Yeah.
And I guess that's what you would do if you were going to build a home. Like if you were going to build like an average home, or if you're going to build an extension of your already like existing home, take a look at that bill, and then you can determine how many batteries you want. Of course, like they're pretty expensive, so like 3 is going to cost you what, 30 grand, and it will just last a day.
Around there,
yeah. That's but assuming
these battery banks, they're meant. I mean, you should. I would say even during a power outage, you shouldn't use them normally. You should definitely cut down on things that are absolutely necessary.
Ration it.
Yeah, learning to at least be like minimalist as much as you can.
But that's only. But at the same time, here's the weird thing though. Like these don't last. These seem like they don't last long, but that's only assuming if you use a lot of power during the night, because we live in Texas.
Yeah.
I think we mentioned this many times. It is sunny 99% of the year. Yeah. So
I was literally about to say that. I was gonna say, but that would only attribute to night because it will always be recharging during the day.
Yeah. So here, at least, we wouldn't really have an issue because the sun would provide all the power in the morning, and then at night it would just be. Yeah.
So you could, in theory, all live completely off the grid in your own neighborhood with just a few banks.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's honestly right now like a lot crazier to think about nowadays too. Like, you can have the ability to have as much power as you can if you have like multiple battery banks available, and who knows if they will improve the capacity of those too in the future.
Almost by the time Tesla does have another one. Does have a newer bank.
Yeah, by the time we go ahead and start doing things like that, it could probably vastly improve or be cheaper.
Yeah,
most definitely.
So really, now this goes back to the EV part. Yeah, at this point, you're actually still like saving the environment nonetheless by buying an electric vehicle. Of course that you will have to pay like the upfront like manufacturing costs, which is a lot of like, pollutions and whatnot too. But that's also to say too that it's not like these mining like industries themselves, they don't just go willy-nilly just start polluting everything. There's so much strict guidelines for them to follow to make sure that they don't pollute as much. Of course they are going to destroy some like the landscape here and there too. But obviously there is always going to be like someone that's going to have to fix that at some point. However, there are cases where some mining pits do get leave open because nobody technically wants to do it, and the government doesn't want to pay like the upfront costs to like try to fill in that shit. Which I'll be honest, I don't think anybody would, just because like that's such a daunting task. But like I said, that is also something that will be outside of scope for this topic, at least.
Yeah.
All right.
Again, we're mostly just talking about with the EV cars, where I'll say it now, the way how my conversation, or at least my point, sounds like it's very contradictory. At least take it with everything we say with a grain of salt, such as the fact that I still believe EV cars are better for us in the long run. However, I wish that we had, like, in this case, the push for hydrogen cars that we talked a while back. Or not hydrogen, but hybrid powers, my bad. Hybrid cars push. Hydrogen power is something else entirely that Toyota needs to literally put that in the dirt.
Yeah. We can actually move into that.
Yeah. Like, holy shit.
Technically, that's technically an EV if you look at it.
Yeah.
But either way.
So if anything, I want to pose this question at least first before we get into it, Michael. Michael, how much do you know about, in this case, hydrogen power and Toyota's push for hydrogen power?
I don't know anything about the push for hydrogen power, but I think I can take a stab at what hydrogen power is. And I'm imagining it's using water and separating the oxygen and the hydrogen, and using the hydrogen as fuel, and then expelling the oxygen or as water.
Yeah, like
right?
in this case,
Or
hydrogen fuel
in some
cells.
way.
The other
Or
way around.
vapor of some kind. Oh, the other way around.
Yes, they use hydrogen, and then they go through like this little electrolysis thingy that it combines with oxygen from the outside, and it exhausts as water.
Oh, okay, I see.
Yeah. So, albeit, it sounds really good, right? The only issue that we have with it is it's kind of hard to really make an infrastructure to contain hydrogen to begin with. Just because, hydrogen is... Go ahead.
Hydrogen is it's highly pressurized, so it's very dangerous.
Yeah, highly pressurized and very combustible. Since, hydrocarbons is a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, Toyota has demonstrated that their hydrogen tanks are very safe. So even if it is like
someone shoots at it, which someone demonstrated.
So Toyota shot at a hydrogen tank and nothing really happened. So that's okay. But my concern right now is the infrastructure, because you got to build a ton of hydrogen stations like gas stations, and then
and
it's very... I don't know how the transportation of hydrogen works too. I assume it's just in a tanker, and then you fill up a tank. It's just literally like a gas station, except with hydrogen instead.
That's
but how I see it.
Albeit the only difference being is the fact that, one, you need to keep hydrogen at a super pressurized state to the point where you can't just use like standard like tanker trucks anymore. Like they would have to be like full metal tanker trucks.
Yeah. Okay.
Because again, the pressure difference that it would be for both is astonishing to begin with, and it requires so much power to like keep it in the pressure. Well, actually, no. If you keep it in pressure first, it wouldn't be that much the power or energy to maintain it. But it's getting to that initial pressure to begin with to make sure it's stable. And and we already see right now with like a lot of ways how people drive here in America that it's going to be literally impossible to transport these things safely. Oh my god.
What is it with people's infatuation with using things that explode as fuel?
I don't know, man. It's sometimes
combustion, man. I don't know what to tell you. That's how it operates.
Look, that's how some people actually understand like a lot of topics better. Look, how much booms does it make to make this thing go to 0 to 60 in like 1.2 seconds? How many booms does it take?
Very weird, bro. I still think it's so bizarre.
Yeah.
Hydrogen seems like a great feel, but I don't see like... I don't see
it working for cars.
EV is right now.
I don't.
It can definitely work for big vehicles for sure, because EVs is not going to work in another semi truck like an 18-wheeler. As much as Tesla wants to say it does, I do not see that happening. You can save so much weight and you can tow so much more if you just use like a hydrogen engine, because essentially it's just like
typical fuel.
Essentially, right? It is like an EV.
How much more powerful is it, the hydrogen engine compared to a gas engine?
It is said, like by a lot of claims too, that it's comparable to gasoline-powered cars.
I guess it's just easier. It's technically renewable.
Yeah, it's technically renewable. It's just a matter of trying to process it. Yeah.
As of right now, it's not renewable because majority of our hydrogen comes from oil. Essentially, it's the byproduct of processing the oil and stuff.
It's just the residue, and they're just running it.
Yep, pretty much. And there's also a lot of cases too. A lot of studies do find as well as certain hydrogen powered cars do still emit some type of greenhouse gas emissions of sorts.
Oh.
Something about like in this case, some of it is like producing nitrogen, but I think that might be the byproduct of like the linings of the exhaust more than anything.
Nitrogen? I mean, the sky, our sky is filled with nitrogen.
Yeah, but then there is like environmental studies. Having too much nitrogen in the air would cause like an imbalance of like weather patterns.
makes sense to me. I think majority of our atmosphere is made up of nitrogen, though.
Yeah. Well, like I said, that was something that I remember reading studies a while back too. It seemed interesting at first, and I'm just like, oh, cool. Also kind of a bit concerning, but I don't know how true that is. And luckily, because there's not that many hydrogen cars around too, I don't think we need to really worry about that.
Mm-hmm.
But again, Toyota was really pushing for it too, just because there was like so much research that on their department too that they want to create a hydrogen power system for like the Japanese government, since in Japan, a lot of times they can't really produce power themselves because they don't technically have a lot of natural resources on their own island, right?
They do not.
So a lot of times they've been importing oil and all natural gases to power a lot of their cities.
Okay. Actually, here comes a different argument. So they don't have natural resources, and then they've been always relying on external oil. On their country's oil, right?
Yeah.
So why is it that they're still so stuck on oil if they want to get out of it?
Yeah,
or
that's
they
like
want to make like their own power. I mean, they have nuclear power plants. Why can't they just, use electricity, make EVs? Their cities are small and cramped. Like why did? It's probably like a really good place to make like small EVs.
Yeah.
Why don't they do that?
Like I said, that's
focus on the weirdest things.
Yeah, again, this is more or less, this is unfortunately going to be outside of our scope because, Japanese politics is way different from what I've been told.
I know, that's so bizarre. It just doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, but...
Politics, man, don't know what to say.
Yeah, but like I said, the only thing that we do know too is that the Japanese government is providing funds to Toyota's like research and development into building, in this case, hydrogen power and solid-state batteries. That's all I know that's coming from Toyota that they're really pushing for. I really hope that they will pull through with the solid-state batteries at least, but until then, all guesses.
They are a lot of talk when it comes to solid-state batteries. Like they said, they should have been out like years ago, but they're still in the talk. They haven't even provided a prototype.
Yeah.
What's a solid-state battery?
So, let me go
it's a
a
battery
little
that's solid.
Okay, a little bit of science, a little bit more science behind this. Typical batteries right now, you already know the build structure about it, where it's like literally two plates that has an anode and a cathode, and in between it is like some gel-like structure or liquid stuff that goes in between it that helps move electricity from one to the other. And if the electrons move through that and touches the other side, that's how it produces electricity. Solid state is replacing that gel with an actual like substance that is going to be the electrolyte replacement for batteries. That's essentially what it is. We've had
is a substance in between.
Like any they call it a no, that's not electrolysis. Electrolyte substances or electrolyte similar materials.
It's some magic material that nobody has told us about yet.
Yeah.
I said Gatorade in there.
Yeah, essentially. yeah.
That's
Duracell's power punch.
That wouldn't be solid.
Yeah, it's fine. They'll freeze it. I don't know what to tell you. It's fine.
Yeah, if you
They'll
did
make it solid.
if you did your own science project enough too, you can literally make your own batteries with like two I forget which one's like an anode cathode, but you have like one iron bar and I forgot what the other one is. I think it's a copper wire, and then you just put it in like a cup full of salty water, and that's it. That is essentially what a battery is. And what we see nowadays is a very much like a sophisticated structure of that same system. But with solid state. Don't worry, me too. Anyways. But solid state, it's supposed to be able to, in this case, transfer electrons to the other relatively fast because it's not going through a liquid medium or a gel-like medium. So with that also means the charge rate should theoretically increase, or if anything, it's been known to increase and discharges also just as much as well too. The only issue is the capacity.
A lot more. Yeah, it should also be a lot more reliable.
Yeah,
since there's no liquid.
Yeah, because the only issue that in this case the gel-like batteries have, in this case what modern batteries use, the only difference that they have to is that with constant uses and recharge cycles, it forms what are called dendrites within like the anode or cathode side of the batteries. And that's also bad as well too, as those dendrites, they will branch out from one side of the plate And if it touches the other side too, that battery is dead. And it will slowly grow with every charge cycle. Which is currently why, in this case, some batteries have life cycles to begin with. It was
so
only...
I guess that stuff shorts it, and that's why it stops working.
Yeah. That's why, in this case, you see like depreciating performances on batteries.
Really, I don't think it doesn't short it, but the electrons can't move over to the other side.
Yeah. Yeah, or if anything, the distance that they travel is shortened to begin with, as they could touch those dendrites. But because of that shortened distance, you're not getting the charge that you're technically required to have for that battery.
So it blocks more of the plate.
Yeah, it blocks more of it, essentially. So with a solid state, you don't get that happening. So therefore, you can theoretically say that it's an infinite life cycle, or close to like, you could charge this shit to like 1,000,000 times and it won't have a drop in performance.
Well, that's theoretical, but I think currently they're saying that the solid state batteries have a very short life cycle, shorter than lithium ion right now.
Yeah. That's our unfortunate cases right now too. The technology is there. The theory stands true. That's the only thing. It's just a matter of like actually replicating that in a lab setting. Which unfortunately, again, this is like third time saying unfortunately, because again, it's a hard technology to actually see any breakthroughs of, because there's so many potential like materials that could actually make it work. But so far right now, it is either A, it does show good results, but it's so hard to reproduce it in a practical sense outside of a lab, or B, it just doesn't work at all. Those are your two options. So
honestly, I think our current best option now in batteries, when it comes to batteries for cars, would be just lithium iron phosphate.
Yeah, lithium iron phosphate,
which is actually what my Tesla has right now. So those are safer than lithium ion.
Yeah, just because
it's not as energy dense, but it is very close to lithium ion, and it is not prone to fires, which is why not prone to fires like lithium ion, which is why safer.
Yeah,
but usually it just has less range, but that's okay. It's a trade-off. Trade-off for being a safer car.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that was the other trade-off for the solid state as well. It was supposed to be deemed a lot safer too, because lithium ions are prone to, kind of combust every now and then. Ever seen electrical fires, Michael?
My point still stands. We like making things that blow up as fuel sources.
Albeit, unfortunately for EVs, it doesn't actually make the car go anywhere. It instead just sits there and you're just screaming as all your money is going down the drain as the fire department is trying to fucking wash it out.
That's all right. If your gas car burns, it's the same thing. All your money just went down the drain.
Yeah, I will say though too, this is sort of let's going back in time a little bit too, where a lot of like EV cars from other companies were using lithium ion battery packs. Firefighters have reported too that trying to like take out the fire of a electric vehicle fire is actually substantially more water to like drown out than compared to a combustion engine car. Only because the fact that with batteries, it will just reignite at any point. And it also burns hotter.
But it's not really reignite. It's just lithium fires are just very difficult to take out, and there's a lot of lithium in a EV.
It's a shocker.
There's that.
Shocker! You have so much lithium ion batteries in your car.
Well, yeah, no, that's I mean, it's a genuine concern. However, as long as you don't, as long as the battery is built right, it's literally no issue.
Yeah, and even then too, a lot of like car companies are trying to like opt out of that too, where it's not even like pure lithium batteries that they're gonna go for now, as it's either lithium nickel or lithium iron phosphate, like
the whole industry right now is going towards lithium iron phosphate. Because I mean, they're still trying to they're getting rid of nickel too. They don't want to use that anymore. Because iron is a lot more abundant and it's a lot easier to use than nickel and stuff.
A lot cheaper to get.
Yeah. And like I said, even though these sounds like in this case in this case, good arguments for against EVs. However, it's still more or less better to think about it in this case that compared to combustion engine cars, there are so many things that can technically go wrong in your car right now that if you don't maintain it properly, it'll just say, "Oh, well, time to go on fire."
Yeah, bro, I'm like happy that I got rid of my Sonata, my gas car.
I kind of miss the Sonata.
Technically, I kind of miss it too, honestly. But I definitely like the Tesla way more. I don't have to worry about literally anything but the tires.
Yeah, essentially that too.
My AC is broken and it's 105 every day.
Oh Jesus! But yeah, I think right now we can
need a Tesla.
But yeah, we can all definitely agree on the fact too that EV cars definitely the way to go here. Now, let's start talking about the other things that in this case a lot of people do have concerns as well, such as the infrastructure needed for that. And we'll talk a lot more on that too. And there's also some other weird, interesting ideas that a lot of companies and politicians are trying to do to kind of address that, more or less. I don't know how much of it will make sense if I try to word it, but hopefully you guys will pick up and probably reiterate what I say more comprehensively.
Let's see. Go ahead.
Well, so in this case, we're gonna go straight into like the most futuristic city design because one of our mutual friends works with like Toyota as well, and this was something that they actually showcased a while back. Toyota is literally like our punching bag for like this podcast and last podcast at this point.
They are.
But it's honestly, they kind of put themselves up there to begin with, so they're gonna take all the criticism from me and like all of us, and it's all gonna be part of the Hot or Trash Takes XD. But at least the way how they showed it a while back too, they had their own press exposition press expo that they had, where they featured, I believe it was called the Toyota Future Leaf City. If you know what that is, Michael.
Leaf City?
Yes. It is
just like is it just like a really green city? And I mean that in a way like plants and such.
If anything,
like that.
Okay,
that
not
weird,
leaf.
Like building infrastructure that's like in harmony with nature.
Kind of, but if anything, this is okay. It's not Leaf City. It's called Woven City Project. Yeah,
Woven City.
Yeah.
The what? The Woven City.
Yeah. I will post it in like our Discord chat here, just so that you guys can take a look at it too.
But my idea is to integrate autonomous vehicles and all that with the city, so you can use like those autonomous EVs, or you can walk around and you can just do whatever. I don't know. It's interesting idea. But go ahead, Brian.
Yeah. So at least the take would be the fact that, like what you said, Victor, this is like their vision of like trying to make a fully sustainable city where there won't be a need for vehicles, and if you do need it, a lot of autonomous vehicles will be around there, and they're gonna be electric or hydrogen or however the hell they want to do it at this point. I'll just put there as well. But it's the idea concept city of like trying to go for sustainability. Now, a lot of people will say like, oh, this is such like a lot of marketing scheme to make them look good for all this stuff too. I was like, I mean, as much as like this is more or less just marketing image to make Toyota look good as well, it's still at least good idea anyway, so that one, we can at least start trying to develop for a better future, at least. Just because right now,
I just want to see it happen.
Yeah, we kind of just want to see these things happen. And here's the other thing too, there's a lot of other places that have been actually like working on sustainability, especially here in the States, at least in a couple states. But
I sometimes wish that I lived in a place that like everything was kind of closer together, because I would, and where it's not always like super hot, because I would love to either just ride a bike, a scooter, or walk to locations and not feel like, oh, I'm gonna have to go 15 20 miles for this. And it's like, oh, I only gotta go like 2 miles. Not a bad walk.
Yeah, I mean, that's actually ideal in this case, how most cities were originally designed before the conception of cars anyways, right? If you think about back in history. Now, at least with the way how it's going to be like a high-tech city with all types of sustainability, like low water usages, such greenery space too, and it's like there's not going to be any types of carbon pollutants happening, even though like at least in our day and age that's not totally possible just yet. It is something that we can build up to at some point, but the way how our at least my take with the Woven City, I love the concept, but I don't think it's the way how they're showcasing it here. I don't think it'll be practical due to the fact that, again, a lot of the technologies that they're boasting about it's still considered like heavily in development, so to speak.
Yeah. And also everything they showcase is like small scale.
Yeah, small scale.
Like their city from their website shows only up to 2,000 people.
Yeah,
that is not much.
Yeah, if anything,
that is not much.
That is unfortunately in this case an average apartment complex block, which if anything, that's the size that it kind of is giving me right here. This isn't considered a city. This is just like a single block within a bigger city here. Now, I get that in this case, if it's a scale model that's supposed to be like, oh, each block is going to look like this, and eventually it's just going to create a massive like utopia of like walking around. Unfortunately, that won't solve the problem in this case that some person needs to walk like a couple blocks down to reach another part of the area of the city, which is in this case why cars started becoming more prevalent at that rate. And now I want to at least boast the argument too that I had with a friend too, that he hates walkable cities just because of the fact that right now the way how it's currently designed is just you can't do anything here in the States without a car. And I want to at least argue back at one point, the United States actually did have walkable cities here. But it's also the argument that I've heard some people that want to say that United States can go like full walkable, and it's like they're trying to co-argument or like their stance about it is that like we destroyed the roads for like the cars and whatnot. Or actually no, that was this take that I was gonna say in the end anyways, yeah, we destroyed our own infrastructure for cars, essentially what happened there.
Technically true, yeah, but at the same time, like when you build a walkable city, everything should be within walking distance. And what is that definition of walking distance? How many miles?
Yeah, it's like
to ask that.
Yeah, it's like it's hard to really say as well too, because everyone is going to be different about how much they want to walk in the first place, and that makes perfect sense. Not everybody wants to like walk like a long ass amount of distance. Like trying to walk 1 mile is already enough for a lot of people.
Scooters,
yeah,
scooters.
And if you want to build a walkable district that's like let's say a 1 mile by 1 mile square, you can't really put much in it.
You can. Yeah, you can't put much in there to begin with to like consider that to be like sustainable, at least both economically and beneficiary to like the denizens that are in that city to begin with. Like if anything too, walkable cities has to be like in both cases needs to be looked at differently from both sides of the party here. We can't look at walkable cities like we got to emulate how the Europeans are doing it. First of all, we can't necessarily do that as again, these roads were already pre-established from history to begin with. In the US though, we have the luxury of like we could start up from a blank canvas. That's why like our grid like city structure comes from. That we kind of just like draw this road straight out yonder this way. And whatnot. And so, at least in my example of the fact that United States right now, we are currently progressing more towards a very good usages of having a walkable city to begin with, such as the fact that we're replacing a lot of like just terrible highway designs that is prolific here in the United States, because that was what we destroyed our own infrastructure for, was for some of these dumb highways that were not planned correctly. And it kind of just cut straight through downtown, did absolutely nothing to fix traffic. Originally proposed that's what it was supposed to do.
Yeah.
So Chicago, if I remember correctly, they took out one of like the most egregious highway that still causes so much traffic too. They ended up getting rid of it and replaced like the empty sector where it was once like a lot of houses with just like park like venue structures to begin to be occupying that empty space. And based on like a lot of studies that people did too, it increases everybody else's like happiness in the area. It's like, no fucking wonder, too. You don't have a giant ass highway like fast cars or like in traffic cars just trying to ram each other anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And
now
like,
you have a place where people can just meet up.
Yeah, meet up too, and it's actually good for your mental health to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that is actually a very good like case study that someone did that at least someone in the United States is doing. However, I cannot speak in this case how much like divisive a lot of people will take about it too, that Chicago's just like one of those areas too that it just happened to be that not all states can follow that too, which is true to an extent. I do believe as well that a lot of states are still trying to emulate that too. Think about all the malls that are about to go under too, and how most of those are either going to be replaced with like parks right now. Just because
parks.
Because right now, shit. Do you know where that one mall is, Victor? Where it was like closed down and it was right close to UTD.
Are you talking about Collin Creek?
Yeah, Collin Creek. Weren't they gonna build a park over there, or was I mistaken on that?
They're building a multi-use like building and stuff. I think they're also building a park. They're gonna have apartments and shops and stuff there.
Yeah. So essentially, a lot of like what was very damaging and a lot of like what they say to American society that I do agree with is like these big ass like stores that are just single like brand stores like Walmart, Target, and even in some cases Costco.
Well, maybe not the maybe not the stores itself that are a problem. I think the parking lots that they built for them is the problem.
Yeah, because like a lot of those Walmart, Targets, they actually help people be able to afford like food and such.
Yeah, which if anything,
if they didn't exist, I'm sure things would be far more expensive.
Yeah, but if anything, let me retract. Let me retract on my statement on that. The Walmarts are in this case are not the problem here. It's in this case some of the policies that kind of drive behind in this case to support cars to begin with, such as every other building that is out there in the United States, any commercial or industry or whatnot, to commercial mostly. The commercial is like however much you're supposed to occupy or however much occupancy you're expecting to, you need to have that amount of parking spots available for your store venues. Which, if anything, if you really think about it, how big cars are, that is going to get ridiculously like huge to begin with, where like the parking lots are bigger than the venue itself.
And now you have cars out here that take up 2 parking spots because they're too damn big.
Yeah, unfortunately, in this case, 2, if they are trying their best to park correctly, or sometimes if people don't give a fuck at all, they'll just take up like 6 parking spots too.
Those are the kind of people who need to immediately be towed.
Yeah.
then their license needs to be revoked and they should never be able to drive again.
Yeah, like I said too.
I agree.
Now, if anything, it's like, all right, Brian, where are you going on with like all this Woven City? So how does this relate back to like EVs?
Yeah, Brian, where are you going with all this?
Brian, where are you going with all this stuff?
So at least this is my take with it, hot or trash take. Hey, XD. But my take with it too, that there's another push that a lot of people are trying to go for, is that instead of like just making everybody rely on EVs, we provide in this case a lot of like, we make it so that all of our cities are incentivized like the people themselves that they don't need to have cars to begin with, such as they need to support in this case more public transportation methods too, which I have friends too that in this case they couldn't stick with it. I was actually okay taking a bus to go to school every now and then, but after which too they try to do it for like 1 week. Nah, we're just driving over there. We'll share like the green or gold parking sticker. I'm like, okay, cool. I'll just take the bus there. But really, it just comes down to that as well too. It's like they're really trying to push for like, in order for people to be less dependent on cars, we had to provide more options for them that they can take to allow them to get to the places they need it without a car. That is another mindset that has to really change too, such as the fact that 1, cars are not the end-all be-all, and if anything, cars are still useful to us. We can still take cars to like go to work and whatnot too. We're not trying to say that you gotta take a bus to go to work. None of us are really saying it like that either. if anything, if you were like a normal person that's not working right now and you want to go downtown, but the only way to go downtown is via by your own car, well, you and like 500 other people are doing the same thing too, and now you're stuck in the traffic trying to find parking.
Mm-hmm.
So it's, if anything too, public transportation just still benefits anybody no matter what.
Yeah.
And that's like a lot of push.
If I truly had a choice, I definitely would not want to rely on a car in general. But it's an unfortunate necessity.
Yeah.
Because of the way things are. It's a great luxury to have, don't get me wrong. I'm not like spitting at it, but they can tend to be expensive and a kind of a hassle to maintain if you use it for a while. So I would just prefer to like walk or bike or scooter or whatever when you have, because I'm still not necessarily like, I wouldn't personally get on public transportations like buses and such unless I absolutely had to. I would just prefer methods like biking or using electric scooters. I'm not going to go take a bus to go to many places in general. I don't trust people. I don't like public transportation.
I would drive an electric smart car.
I wish that in this case everybody just has like the autopilot system be made readily available too, so that fucking people that are bad at driving don't need to fucking car drives for them. Jesus.
Dude, we need to do it. I know people will be screaming that it's taking their freedom away, but we just need to do it at this point.
Yeah, just fucking do it.
Get the tech, like really R&D that technology, get it out right, and just be done with it. I'm sick and tired of dumb drivers on the road.
Yeah, essentially that's all that we're trying to do right now too. Like, I love public transportation, or like the ideas behind it, especially there's a lot of push here in the US that they are trying to like make a lot of bus routes be readily accessible in a lot of areas. At least this is only applies kind of only within like urban centers, because you know they kind of need it to begin with.
Yeah.
Now, this is sort of less us speaking in terms like we live like out in the suburbs, right? Which, if anything, a lot of people would like to trash as suburbs are like the death in America too. Which is like, yes, in some cases it's a fact. It's the fact too that like it doesn't make sense why a lot of people would still build out suburban neighborhoods to begin with, as they don't generate money at all for like anyone that's building out these plots and lands too. They technically don't generate money as long as like you have people that are potentially buying into those areas. But the problem is the fact that they're like, yeah, you can still say suburban neighborhoods are, in this case, they cost more for like the city to try to maintain them, right? Versus like trying to go for more apartment buildings and mixed use buildings. But the problem is that just
paying to maintain it. Can you explain that to me?
So there was like a study that someone that elaborated on this case how a lot of suburban cities were subsidized, right? Like a lot of the money that's generated here in, let's say, Fort Worth too, a lot of the money that's generated by a lot of like the big commercial buildings too, they make up huge margins for like the cities too. But a lot of like the profits that they are doing that are being cut a bit too are going into trying to subsidize a lot of the suburban like neighborhoods around Fort Worth. Like, this is just more or less to fit the scenario. So it's like for the city, they're technically having to spend more money to build out the suburban neighborhoods. However, I want to at least point against that, because I was also on that boat until I think about like suburban neighborhoods is just a natural byproduct of people wanting to move away from the city to begin with, such as the fact that they want to like have a life and like have family outside of like that densely populated area. Because again, I was probably thinking of it when like I was looking like 25 maybe, or 25, 22. Like I was like okay with like living in a dense city too. But looking at it too, even if the city was built to be like safe as much as you can too, I would still prefer like the privacy. Like I would not mind like just raising a family out in like a single family house.
And that's the massive point about it. It's safety, it's the privacy, raising your family, community, stuff of that nature. I'm not saying that you can't get community in a city, but you can have a strong community within suburbs as well. It's just it's just a natural progression.
Yeah, and at least here's my take with that too. I think in general, suburbans are not bad. They're just badly designed to begin with. That is at least my take with it. Suburban neighborhoods are actually still quintessential to a city's health. It's just a matter of the way how the US was building it initially. Almost seems like if you're trying to describe it to another person, it feels like a Ponzi scheme. Where like at some points it is, as soon as they finish building out the suburban neighborhoods too, they're trying to like, the city's trying to make money off of it. They don't generate that much off of it. And if anything, they're paying more for the expenses of the existence of these neighborhoods.
I mean, that's why we get taxed, bro. Like, what's the concern?
Yeah, like if anything, that's why I thought too.
Property taxes.
Yeah, they take your cut in property taxes. So if anything, nothing is technically like non-generating, but in terms of like how much the, like, let's say this office building generates or this apartment complex generates too, it's technically way more than like a single like individual house too. But then you're also looking at it as an individual case.
I'll tell you what's going to be the death of suburbs: corrupt HOAs.
Oh yeah. No, this could be, yeah, that could technically be the topic we could do right now too. Is like fuck HOA.
No, they serve I think they do genuinely serve a decent function. I think that the people in charge are generally idiots.
Yeah, pretty much.
They're not idiots. Here's the thing: they're not idiots. They abuse their power. There's a different thing. There's a difference here.
Okay,
they abuse their power. They're not stupid. I mean, all they do is absolutely nothing and just bitch at people for putting like a fucking solar light in your front house. It makes no sense, bro. Like these guys think they're like, I mean, I feel like we're living in a communist society in these HOAs here. It's fucking ridiculous.
There was one in the old neighborhood, and he would drive his truck around, and he would start yelling at partly over the fence, just a little bit. This is a video. He would just start screaming, and he would threaten to write us up and everything. And I'm like, dude, this guy is this is how you know this guy's life has peaked. This is what he's screaming on about.
Yeah,
bro. Then that strand of grass is 1 inch taller than everybody else's, bro. You're gonna get fined. Yeah. Fined 3 times. We're gonna evict your house.
Oh, in this case, we evict your house and we
fucking house,
and they'll buy your house for like 50 cents.
It's ridiculous, bro.
Yeah,
these guys have way too much power for what they are, and it makes no sense.
Yeah, but again, we'll dive more on HOA on another topic because my God, that's a God damn it, they're making me angry from now.
We'll make that next. We'll make that next week because I'm pissed off about it right now.
Yeah, we'll stop at it right now. Let's go back into, in this case, how we think about how EVs play a part of it.
Yeah, let's go back to the vroom vroom mobile.
But yeah, I think right now too, with the way how EV cars are going to be, as hopefully that they would like be better for us longevity wise. One, EV cars. You're good. EV cars technically do not like generate like any more excess heat, so therefore a lot of like cities that have like combustion cars like constantly running to, they won't generate a lot of heat coming in and thus dropping the temperature in the local area.
Technically they do. They don't produce as much heat as gas cars. They do produce heat, obviously, but
yeah, they do produce heat. Yeah.
Wait. Catch me up to speed, because right after I said that guy's life peaked, I lost connection.
Yeah, not much really happened.
Yeah, not much.
We'll talk about HOAs next week.
Yeah, we'll talk about next week and probably another thing on top of that, too, such as like how we wish that suburban houses are built. Anyways, we'll go on for that. We'll go.
And what were you guys talking about just now?
We're just going back on track with the topic, such as like how EV cars play into the whole grand scheme of what I was initially talking about. Such as electric vehicles, they don't produce that much heat compared to normal combustion engine cars. Therefore, the average temperature around an area with cars too will drop a lot more noticeably for people. So a lot of people can actually walk out perfectly fine.
You know what also increases heat in a local area?
What's that?
Concrete.
Yeah.
Roads.
Oh man, I feel like Okay,
Dude,
I do. Here's the thing about
we're
this.
just a desert of concrete, bro. It just soaks up the heat and then just that's it, bro. I'm like, it's
yeah. I'll at least brush on this. I'll touch on this too, but I do think that I would love to talk about sustainability cities, and like as another new topic as well. But I'll briefly touch on this one. Yes, concrete will in this case generate the most amount of heat based on the way how most of the colors that you see for concrete are mostly like gray, or like sometimes they could be black in some cases too. But a lot of it is just because the nature of concrete itself, material property wise, they absorb heat a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So with the absorption of heat, they're less likely to let that intense heat like bounce off of it and just let it go into the atmosphere, and instead it gets trapped in the ground getting radiated. So instead of us getting radiated by the sun in some areas, it just is unbearable to begin with because how hot that concrete is. Now, I will talk more into, in this case, some of the cool cutting edge technologies that we are seeing right now in another in a next week's topic. I wanted to say that.
But
let's do next
now.
Yeah.
As of now, we need more trees.
Oh god.
More green, more trees.
But goddamn it, that'll also be part of next week too, because it turns out trees are only capable of, in this case, taking as much carbon from like cars exhaust, or like the whole emission of car exhaust by like 1 hour.
Look. Taking carbon's not the issue. I just need shade.
Which is honestly perfectly fine.
Concrete jungle around me all the time, dude.
Yeah, which is honestly perfectly fine.
I also live in the suburbs. No concrete jungle.
I also want to park in a parking lot and get in my car after I'm done doing whatever I'm doing without burning my ass.
That's also like one of these things too. That, like, part of the sustainability cities grow too is like they can't just be catering for like one thing too. Like it has to be fully walkable. It has to be an integrated system, like as if like both cars and people can like coexist together. Like in this case, how we coexist with nature. We have to, in this case, treat cities as if they're a part of like a nature now. That now we have to kind of develop it even further. So that can also mean too that we have to really make sure that future plannings now, we have to build better roads, because my god, nothing drives me more insane if in this case someone decides to put a roundabout and 5 seconds outside of that roundabout exit is a traffic light stop. Why does that exist? I swear, whoever built that roundabout here upwards and forward, closer to South Lake, I want to beat your fucking knees inwards.
Dude, there's a really, I think maybe you and I saw it at one point, Victor. But there's this, if you go onto like I said, like the highway, and you just go like north, there's this really, really weird like roundabout, not even a roundabout, okay? It's just weird like interlacing of roads, and it throws me off every time because I do not understand its function.
Where?
I'll see if I can pull up a picture of it on a map, but it's, if you go along the highway and you just go straight up north, you'll find it here.
Yeah.
And also map it, y'all keep going.
Yeah, I'll say this too. In order for us to, like, let's say for us to really drop our emission ratings on our cars as well, this could work for like all cars too, both combustible and EVs too. We just need to build better designed roads, because my god, in the United States, we suck at building roads for whatever reason.
Yeah, we suck at doing a lot of things.
Yeah, roads in particular, I'm very angry about.
Yeah, roads here are very cheaply built. They crack after like 2 days.
Crack after 2 days? Man, that's giving them a lot of credit there. As soon as they lay out the foundation, it's somehow already cracked.
You're right, bro. They make it cracked.
I was like,
they're doing construction up near UTD, and one of the places they extended the road, like as they were burying something, and they've layered over it, and I ran over it a few times. I came back less than a week later, and it was caved in. Like, you tell me how great they build these roads.
Oh, man. That's great.
Yeah. Which, if anything, is like, I think that is just like a problem too. That I think in general, too, I agree with some cases for the car drivers too. that in this case, it's also for like people for walkable cities. We suck at building roads because one,
I think okay, hold on. I think we suck at building like literally everything, not just roads.
Yeah, we literally suck at building everything. But let's focus on roads here for a bit too, because this applies for at least the cars talk here. Now, given the fact that if we could build if we had the foresight to predict how traffic will build up anyways too, we would probably not have this issue to begin with, where like a lot of traffic jams would occur here and there, because we will understand where people are coming from, where the jobs are located, and whatnot. Unfortunately, that's never the case too. They're like expanding so fast, they just fuck it, just build roads everywhere.
Yeah, I mean that is an issue. I mean, you gotta build roads quickly.
Yeah, you had to build roads quickly. You have to build roads quickly just because the fact that one, there's always such a demand for like people moving into that, and unfortunately for a lot of planners too, they are trying their best to plan these out. I'll say this: it's not the planners' fault at all too. They're just doing what the best they could, right? Especially with the demand.
They look. You can only predict the future so much, bro. You can't like design it to accommodate like a growing population or anything like that. Like, it's in the end, you don't truly know. Yeah, you have an idea, but you don't truly know.
Yeah, but however, there has been a change of philosophy within a lot of urban planners now, where they're taking more time to like really think out like how these roads are supposed to be laid out and built. As such, one.
Yeah. That's fine, but like I said, like you can only plan out so much.
Yeah, you can only plan out so much.
That road that I'm talking about, I think it's new.
Oh jeez.
I'll take a. So I keep talking. This might be something we talk about off because it's kind of off track.
Okay. But yeah, either way, like even if you plan so much, what if the way a city is like being built goes in a different direction, because of different needs and all that stuff?
Oh yeah, and obviously that's something that you can't account for.
Like the planning can only take you so far.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, it's necessary, but it can only take you so far.
Yeah. But let's just say, for assuming another case as well too, that at that point that also means too that the people that are building like their new businesses and whatnot to new workplaces, they'll try their best to build themselves like where traffic is easily accessible from getting home to work as much as they can. Which, if anything, I feel like a lot of businesses would do. At least that's
majority of big businesses would always aim to be next to a highway.
Yeah, which honestly, it makes sense. You have a direct access path to get there. But
chill.
Let's see, what is this here?
Oh shit! I drove on this. Yeah, I thought it was really stupid.
It's really garbage.
So pretty much for audience that doesn't see this, it's essentially a different form of having a roundabout interchange exit from like a highway to intercity roads, which unfortunately is terrible nonetheless. Just because it's not even a roundabout, they look like teardrops at both ends. But I digress. There's nothing much that we can talk about, at least for the scope of today's topic, so we'll move on from that. We will address it at another point. But really, like, yeah, a lot of businesses will try their best to build on these highways too. But based on, in this case, what I can see so far too, they really need to just account for the fact like how many people are still going to be sharing that highway. And if there's like a central location, because at this point, urban planners cannot plan for like everything else at that point. But what they can plan on are, in this case, few key locations that they know there will be a lot of people visiting to, no matter what. So having solid, like, at least traffic networks that could support at least these key locations is perfectly fine, because this will, in this case, put the responsibility back on the driver. And more times than not, as much as we want to say that a lot of people are dumb drivers, they at least know where they're going sometimes.
Yeah. I mean, you should always know where you're going when you're, just driving out there.
Okay, sometimes people are directionally challenged.
some people joyride, but I mean, you have a GPS, so you should definitely know. If you have a destination, you should know where you're going.
Yeah. But it's perfectly fine anyways if you want to joyride as well too. Like there should be options where like at least the way how a lot of city structures are built out to, they should accommodate for a lot of things too, such as one, going from home to work or going from home to like any other shopping centers that you need to go to or to other districts that you need to visit too. Hell. And this was also a thing too that I want to see more of, and I think a lot of US cities are trying to do again too, where a lot of like the people that are coming from the suburbans into like urbanized area too, they're actually parking a little bit of ways out from the cities into parking structures, and then they're getting picked up by the bus to go to the centers. But either by bus or like other public transportation network. Just like imagine us like driving out to like a parking structure to take a train to go to the Texas State Fair. Because that's that was actually a really decent example of like us like actually not minding to drive and then use public transportation network to suit us for that.
That's what I do when I go down there. That's how I do it. It's the easiest way.
Yeah, it's the easiest way, and it's by far probably the most accomplishable method that it can happen within the states now. And how you can literally just take more people out of their cars and just use public transportation network to figure out key places where they would visit. So therefore, you take away cars that would go to those locations, and it gets sprayed. You still spread them out to other areas. In this case, cars that would inevitably go to those areas to begin with. And you're just taking it away from like densely like concentrated zones by providing public transportation networks to support that. That's why in this case, I don't believe in the just supporting public transportation just everywhere. Because if that were the case too, there was a case too where suburban neighborhoods that actually did have train routes that would take them from a suburban neighborhood all the way to downtown. Unfortunately, it did not make up for like the amount of passengers that would actually take that to justify the cost. And also it only ran from like, I'll say from like 8 a.m. to like 7 p.m. And it won't run like 24/7 like other public transportation networks around the earth. Maybe not 24/7, but they run a lot longer service from what I've heard.
Which one? Wait, which one?
I don't remember if Japan's like public transportation network too, like their hyper or their bullet trains, if they run 24/7 or they only run like maybe 12-hour period.
Oh, not sure.
Yeah. I'll probably look at that at some point, but if anything, US is not like has the capacity to do stuff like that. We're seeing it being done too. But again, this plays into it by just taking combustion engine cars away from them, adding EV cars. It makes everyone's lives a lot easier too. And with the added bonus too that you can have charging networks as well, or parking like structures be repurposed to just have charging networks, since all it really needs is for you to tap into the high voltage cable that's probably underneath the road. It's not too bad anyways, right?
Yeah, not too bad.
Yeah. You're still to tase yourself with I don't know how many volts are running through our main electricity line anyways, but I'm sure it's not that much.
A lot.
I don't know. Not enough to kill me, I guess.
Tase is a soft word for what you'll get.
Yeah. But really, I love the fact too that again, I'm seeing so many articles that are trying to placate in them tackling the ideas of what their definition of the sustainability city is. Either does it need to be walkable, or can it not just be like just throw in a bunch of trees and call it a day? Where there are some cities that are trying to tackle all of these problems as one, as they're treating this whole problem as like one thing to begin with. This will probably be like a prelude to our next week topics, which is in this case sustainable cities, or at least us diving into what makes a good sustainable city to begin with. But one of those topics I'll say that will set up the groundswork for it is just EV cars to begin with. Because right now in American culture, cars are just prolific everywhere. And the thing about it too is that like there's some people that want to change that too, But people coming from outside of the US, they come over here to like embrace the car culture that's here. Just because why not? Cars give you so much independence and freedom compared to like just sharing the train network, which I feel like the US is positioned correctly to take advantage of both things. It can have the public transportation network systems that they could benefit from their Western allies or their Western like friends or whatnot too, while at the same time they still cater to those that drive everywhere for cars. We could develop cities that way because let's be honest, the US is fucking huge. There's no excuse really that we don't have like the capacity to like say that, oh, we can't plan a public transport network because there's just not enough space. Fuck it, whatever, just eminent domain it. But that's communism, shut the fuck up. Oh god, I'm talking to myself, my bad, boys.
Yes, sir.
Well, this is just me, like, in trying to... I always do this to myself, where I try to dumb myself to try to argue against it. To, like, really, like, test my own patience about, like, listening to other people's arguments. But,
interesting way of going about it.
Yeah, it's an interesting going way about it, and it probably makes you sound more insane than I need to be. I'm gonna be honest here. But oh well, this is why I have friends here like you guys, so that I don't feel bad having these thoughts on my own. But really, because this is just me at this point spouting to myself at this point. Do you guys have anything that you want to input in there? Just because I feel bad, like at this point, taking majority of it.
Well, I think we should save it for the next week podcast.
All right then. We'll save it for next week podcast then. It's a shame too because like, I think right now like we would love to talk more about Cars Part 2, but I feel like we talk a lot already to begin with, and we kind of set up the groundwork for like next week right now, where we're gonna talk about like sustainable cities and what I believe that we should probably strive for. And no, it's not because of the fact that I want to get rid of cars or just make it just pure walkable cities. That's also moronic to think as well.
I also agree. Because our lives are dependent on cars.
Yeah.
At this point.
Yeah, there's no one that's gonna take that away from us otherwise. Or some people that want to make the argument, that's not what they're trying to get rid of in the first place. They just want better designed cities in the end. So, any last words for you guys before we end this podcast?
Don't be afraid to buy EVs, guys. We need to progress into the future. Let's stop all this global warming. I'm tired of being burned every time I walk outside.
Same here.
I think that's just a problem of geography.
Fuck that. It doesn't matter. You just buy it anyways.
I got to just buy EVs anyways.
Just buy EV anyways.
The earth is heating up, and it's causing a lot more problems than just this heat.
Yeah, so...
That I'll agree with.
Yeah. So, yeah, regardless, keep supporting the EVs. Or if anything, if you don't want to buy into it, keep an eye on it too, because there's going to be some more wild developments that we probably haven't covered here. So, until further ado. What did you say real quick?
There's most definitely a lot of improvements and developments on EVs, so yeah.
Yeah.
It's only going to get better from here is all I'll say.
Yeah. It all seems doom and gloom in some ways how a lot of articles want to point it, but nah, I still have optimism at least for this. I like to criticize on it, but don't take that as like a negative connotation. This is just sort of less like what we're going to be doing anyways. But
also, we need more parking structures and less parking lots.
Yep, for the love of God, please repeal.
We need not large cars.
Oh well, unfortunately that won't happen.
Not large personal vehicles.
Oh, too bad.
I'll still stick to my Super Duty.
I'll still stick with my truck that stands 13 feet tall.
Truck mod. Go in now to buy your first Tundra right now. Feeling lonely? Buy a truck. Your wife cheated on you? Buy a truck. You got a small pecker? Buy a Ford Super Duty.
If I can bigger truck.
If I can see someone's head when they're standing straight up, it ain't tall enough.
I know. I don't want to see anything in front of me when I drive.
Not at all.
Like I said, I have my bad opinions against like trucks to begin with too. But
oh yeah, you do. I do too.
but like I said, if anything, people should at this point buy cars for their use purposes. But at the same time, that's not ever gonna happen. Let's be real with each other here.
No, sir. This country is pretty materialistic, so
Yeah,
we gotta have things that flaunt our wealth,
and
that
they
flaunt our status.
They were convinced, and somehow they were managed to be convinced that trucks were something to be like,
a status symbol.
just,
Hell yeah.
The truck was a status symbol.
Oh, I don't remember if I covered on this too. Before we actually end it off too, I want to at least expand on like the truck and SUV parts for people that don't remember too. Or I'll recap it from last session because I said this too. The reason why SUVs were made was because of the fact too that there was, I believe, a policy or a law that was passed sometimes in the US too, where it forced automakers to try to like reduce the emissions of like the trucks, right? Because they were producing so much like gas to begin with. And it wasn't because of global warming too. It was just like nauseous to everybody else that was driving next to them. So instead of like really addressing that too, they made a new vehicle called the SUV, which took the framework of a truck, but decided to extend the hood to the back.
Yeah, no, it's pretty crazy the loopholes they found. All they had to do was add a hood and name it an SUV, and like everything changed.
Yeah,
like, it was that crazy. Have you guys seen like some of the ads, like why trucks, at least in the US or in the South, is just so popular? Like now they're just so popular because you can't get away from them. They've been flooded in. But it really fed on ego. They really like said I'm paraphrasing here, but essentially they were like, you're not a man if you don't have a truck, and they've been doing that for like 40 years, and like just weak-willed men fell for it, and now we have trucks everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I believe it too. At least in my case, because I work for for a company right now too, that I do have to rent like full size pickup trucks too. But it's also because of the fact I'm hauling like a fuck ton of shit. But like I said, I'm using it as a use case purpose.
Boys.
Oh, there we go. Oh, thank you. But yeah, I believe.
I definitely know that there are like intended purposes and uses for it, and I do know that certain people use it. I don't have a problem with necessarily trucks in general. I have a problem with
the drivers.
Luxury trucks.
Or
luxury trucks, and definitely the drivers.
I would get a luxury truck.
All right.
Luxury trucks are the ones where their beds are now like 5 or 4 feet long, and they stand 13 feet tall and take up 2 to 3 parking spots because they're just too.
No, that's why you get a Super Duty, so that it takes up 5 spots, and it's the 6-foot bed with a full cab in the back, so you can fit a whole family in there, while also towing like 20,000 pounds.
And probably your rental home if you live out of that, I guess.
It's just like they've gotten really ridiculous.
20 feet, and it stands 20 feet in the air now.
Yeah, and if anyone, okay, that's also another point. Vehicles, if like normal sized vehicles, your typical car, they have sloped hoods because they're kind of low, so that if they hit someone will slide onto the hood and not bounce off the car.
Yes.
SUVs and trucks are built in such
straight
a way.
hood.
Yeah, they are a straight. The truck that we passed by today.
I mean, all the big cars. Yeah, all the big cars have straight hoods. Yeah. You're just done.
Yeah, they stand taller than me, and I stand nearly 6 feet tall. That thing was towering over me. I couldn't see over the hood. Dude, if that thing came at me going 30, 40 miles an hour, not to mention the physics behind just 1/2 mv squared, I'm dead. It's a flat object coming to slam me. I'm flying.
Yeah, bro, he slams you, you're flying, but he still doesn't see you, so he runs you over.
Yeah, and then he runs me over. No, I'm
Yeah.
just telling you, dude. Like, even the designs of trucks and SUVs are literally made in a way to make it far less safe for pedestrians.
Oh yeah,
In any
definitely.
case. So when you get more negligent and reckless drivers behind these gigantic SUVs and trucks, and they just hit someone, there is a far less likely chance of survival. And half these trucks and SUVs are the ones that in the parking lots will just drive at like normal speed, 30 to 35 miles an hour through a parking lot, and just roll right over the small speed bumps because they just don't do anything. And like I've seen people like get their shopping carts hit, and I've seen people have to like dodge out of the way because these guys in trucks and stuff just keep going. They just keep going. They don't stop.
Yeah, like I said, I think I talked about it last week with Victor too. That like again, the other reasons that I think it's like a dumb reasoning for you to buy like SUVs or trucks to begin with is say that because I feel safer being behind the vehicle if someone were to hit me. And I was like, just be a better driver.
No, because that's something I could buy into. Because since everyone here in Texas has a truck or an SUV, if you don't have one, you are at a severe disadvantage in a wreck.
Yeah. But although to be fair,
that's the same. Look, that's the same way I felt when my parents had their truck.
Bro, do not get me started on semi trucks that have spikes on their tires, like on their rims.
Yes.
How did that manage to pass like being legal? Like I know it doesn't stick 6 feet or 6 inches. I forget what the limit is off your car. I'm sure it's like 6 inches. 6 feet is a bit extreme. But
I definitely seen trucks that have way longer than that.
Yeah, I don't understand why that's illegal. But that's a whole thing. Like I'm so sick and tired of all the trucks around here, and I'm sick and tired of the fact that it's only the really bad drivers who seem to just decide to get behind the wheel on it.
Yeah. And if anything, to at least my argument from last week before, I'll probably say it to you this one because you weren't there. I even said it too. Like, even if you did say you feel safer in like these bigger vehicles to begin with, too, physics is still at a disadvantage, even if you are in that vehicle. Because what's to say that like if you collide with another vehicle with a similar mass and size as yours, that the destruction itself would not just be even more catastrophic. And people even said too that like SUV car accidents are the most dangerous and the most like, scary experiences to witness.
Well, then it goes back to the whole flat hood or the flat front thing. Like now you're, instead of being sloped, you're literally just slamming your entire front vehicle, especially at that size. Like, I don't know. Yeah, I think realistically, the wreck to a truck to truck, it wouldn't be necessarily any different. But definitely to a truck to an average size car, yeah, it's significantly different.
Yeah, and it's already terrible now. I've seen like I think I said again from last week. There was like a video that I saw as well where like I think it was like a full size truck's wheel that popped off and it went underneath an SUV, and that SUV went airborne.
Oh yeah, I know that video.
That shit was scary. I'm like, what the fuck?
Dude, what's the point of these people getting gigantic trucks and then still managing to get into wrecks on turns because they can't see over cars? Like, what are you talking about? How are you not able to see another car coming when you stand like 14 feet tall?
Yeah. That's the problem, bro. You stand 14 feet tall, you can't see anything below you.
Yeah, and it's like, at least for me, I still like my sedan cars. I will still drive it. I probably won't own like a pickup truck. The most I will do is that I'll probably import a K truck because that shit's cool.
Like I said, I'll do a roundabout back to it. I genuinely have no problem with trucks. I have a problem with luxury trucks because they are absolutely the most abhorrent thing to have gotten onto the road in America. That and SUVs, both are the most abhorrent thing that have
ever manage to make it to the road in America.
Look, man, how are you supposed to take Timothy to his next soccer game?
Depends on the SUV, you know, those big giant SUVs, sure, but those smaller SUVs, come on, they're useful.
Those are the SUVs I'm talking about, gigantic ones. The ones that are just trucks with hoods on the back, all right? Those are the ones I'm talking about.
Oh, man. But
I guess I should clarify.
Yeah, I get you on that, at least. With SUVs, at least some of the models too of the SUVs, they look a lot more decently sized too. And if anything, you can still see in the front of you. Like, if anything, at least some SUV hoods do not, like, go above your fucking shoulder. But there are still cases where, I can only see the top of his head, and that person's only 6'1".
Think about the children.
Yeah. Like I said, in America, we have a saying, fuck them kids.
Dude, I saw a video. It was like the average luxury size truck, and how many kids it took before you saw the top of one kid's head, and I think it was like 6 or 7 just in a line. Like, if that's not ridiculous, I don't know what is.
Yeah, that's already like a problem. That's why a lot of these cars or not cars, all the trucks and SUVs have these safety features to begin with, so they can avoid shit like that. But unfortunately, that drives up the cost of the cars or those trucks and vehicles.
That's what you get for getting a luxury truck. I don't know what else you want. It's called luxury for a reason. You're not using it as a truck. You're using it as an expensive, large vehicle.
Yeah. Might as well. You know what I would have done with that money too? See if I could chip in with my other friends too that they want to buy me a A1 Abrams tank.
And people are afraid that EVs are going to be heavy on the road when they have these like 2-ton behemoths on it. Like,
oh yeah, that's it.
You're mentioning that just made me remember. Yeah, bro, why are people concerned about the weight of EVs when literally trucks and SUVs are like way heavier? It makes no sense.
Yeah,
they're way heavier, way larger, more dangerous, but it's an EV, so we can't have it.
And also, to those as well too. Why the fuck do you care about the EVs too if you're not gonna buy one yourself? That's also another thing.
Yeah, that's also interesting. Like, people are so against things that they're never gonna buy. That's so bizarre.
Well, I'm super against trucks, and I'm never gonna buy one, but I'm doing it because of safety reasons. The fact that they're just really bad drivers behind it.
Yeah.
And the fact that legitimately they are the most dangerous thing that has been introduced.
I'm gonna get a luxury Super Duty.
Yeah, you and every other Texan in this place.
Yeah, I mean, if anything, I do want to say too, we also are seeing like a definite change too. Like, a lot of people are trying to like push for like a mid-sized trucks now. If anything, when are we going to bring back?
Pushing for compact trucks.
Yeah,
just
compact
make
trucks.
The trucks the size of a normal car, and we're all good. I don't care if they're a luxury normal size car. Why do they? I'll iterate it again. Why do they need to be 13, 14 feet tall with the flattest hood I've ever seen in my life?
Because truck mode, we want us to have 1,800 horsepower.
They're doing that now. I mean, they're doing that now, so they're making those small trucks now.
Yeah. Finally, go back to it, and then convince the public, because they're so easily convinced that getting a luxury truck is just what they need. And then there you go. You still sell trucks,
luxury,
and it'll be normal size.
Man,
come on, do it again for all of our sakes.
Yeah, like I said, I also wish that they would bring back like the crossover cars too, such as like the sedan size cars that just have a long trunk bed. I like those, but then they'll never bring it back. It was like, I remember like you see it like in like the pictures when they showed you like what old-timey cars look like, not like the conception of cars, but like 1980s.
Station wagons?
Yeah, station wagons. I don't know why I call them crossovers. I'm sorry for like people that have them. They're getting it confused by that shit. Oops.
Comment below on the YouTube video about what you think about trucks.
And it's like, are you like him, where this because you bastardize, or you hate everyone that drives it, you call them a bastard?
Or you're like me and you want to go out and buy yourself a luxury Super Duty.
yeah. We have two very distinct people with that mindset here. So, so I think that this is pretty much good to end off on that note here. All right.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right. Now, my last final words: buy your EVs. buy your next Ford Super Duty, doesn't matter. Piss off our guest Michael even more on the road. But I'll leave it all to you. And next week we'll probably talk more about sustainability because that is something I would love to talk more about. And there's a lot of things I've looked at for the past years, and probably what we're still looking at now. So with that, I'll leave you all with a good night. Good night.
Good night.
Thank you, everyone.